The twin suns of planet Varela hung low in the sky, casting golden light across the glassy fields. The air shimmered with soft hues of blue and violet, and tall crystal trees whispered with the wind. It was a beautiful world, peaceful, orderly, and full of strange energy that humans were still trying to understand. Ethan Ward, a human xenobiologist, stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around with quiet amazement. He had studied many alien worlds, but Varela was unlike any other. The ground felt warm under his boots, and the air smelled faintly of metal and flowers. He adjusted his research pack and smiled as he saw the brilliant city ahead, tall spirals of glowing stone rising into the clouds. Around them, elegant alien beings walked gracefully, their bodies marked with glowing lines that pulsed gently with their heartbeat. They were the Varelians, one of the oldest known civilizations in the Galactic Council. Ethan was here as part of a cultural exchange mission. The goal was simple: learn, observe, and share knowledge between species. But for him, it was more than that. It was a dream come true to study alien biology and culture side by side at the landing platform. A small group of Varelians waited to greet him. The one in front stepped forward, her markings shining softly in gold. Her eyes were large and bright like molten amber, and her voice carried a gentle melody when she spoke. "Welcome, human Ethan Ward," she said with a graceful bow. "I am Lyra of the 8th House, your guide and translator." Ethan smiled awkwardly and returned the bow, trying not to seem too stiff. "Thank you, Lyra. It's an honor to be here. Your world is incredible." She tilted her head slightly, the alien gesture of approval. "Varela welcomes those who seek peace. You will be shown our ways, our science, and perhaps, if your heart listens, our harmony." Ethan didn't quite understand what she meant by harmony, but he nodded anyway. "I'll try my best." The days of learning for several weeks, Ethan lived among the Varelians. They taught him about their energy crystals, their songs that healed wounds, and their belief that every life form carried a piece of the universal symphony. To them, everything was about balance between mind, body, and the planet itself. Even technology on Varela ran not by fuel or machines, but by resonance. Every device hummed in tune with the world around it. Ethan found it fascinating. His human mind tried to explain it scientifically, but there was something more, something spiritual he couldn't fully measure. During his research, he often worked with Lyra. She was patient, kind, and deeply curious about humans. She asked him endless questions: how humans could live without glowing markings, why they couldn't feel energy waves directly, and how they built ships that crossed light years. He laughed at her curiosity. "Humans don't glow, but we're good at surviving. Maybe glowing would make us easier targets," he joked once. Lyra's eyes brightened with amusement. "Perhaps. But it would make you beautiful." Ethan wasn't sure how to respond to that, so he just smiled awkwardly again. Despite their differences, the two became friends. They spent long hours walking through the crystal gardens, exchanging stories of Earth and Varela. Lyra told him that Varelians formed emotional links through energy pulses, something humans couldn't naturally do. Ethan shared how humans expressed emotion through words, touch, and art. Each day, they grew more comfortable around each other. Yet, beneath it all, was something unspoken. Something Lyra seemed to know, but Ethan didn't. The Festival of Harmony, one morning. Lyra came to Ethan's quarters with excitement glowing in her markings. "Ethan, tonight is the Festival of Harmony," she said. "It is a rare event. The two suns align, and our crystals sing. You must come." Of course, Ethan said eagerly. "What happens at the festival?" "It is a celebration of unity," she explained. Varelians join hands, share energy, and renew their bonds with the world and with each other. Ethan didn't hesitate. To him, it sounded like an anthropologist's dream. He wanted to record every moment. When evening came, the city lit up with soft colors. Thousands of Varelians gathered in the Grand Plaza, their bodies glowing in waves of light. The ground was covered with crystal dust that shimmered with every step. Music filled the air, not with instruments, through energy pulses that vibrated the heart. Ethan felt the sound more than he heard it, and it made him feel strangely calm. Lyra walked beside him, dressed in robes that shimmered like liquid gold. She looked radiant, almost otherworldly. "Come," she said, reaching out her hand. "Join us in the bond of harmony." Ethan hesitated. "Is it allowed for a human to join?" Lyra nodded gently. "Yes, it is a simple ritual of goodwill. You will share a moment of light. It will mean friendship." He smiled. "Friendship sounds perfect." She led him to a raised platform where a glowing crystal stood. Other pairs of Varelians were already touching the crystal, exchanging faint pulses of light between their palms. Ethan watched carefully, then placed his hand on the cool surface beside Lyra's. "Now, repeat after me," she said softly. Her voice was calm and melodic. He repeated the words as best he could, though the alien syllables were hard to pronounce. The crystal pulsed brighter. Then, suddenly, he felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest. The crowd around them began to cheer, their markings flaring in color. Ethan blinked, startled. Did I do something wrong?" Lyra smiled, her eyes soft and glowing. "No, Ethan. You did everything right." Confusion after the ceremony, Ethan returned to his quarters, still feeling the strange warmth inside him. It wasn't painful, just different. Almost like energy humming beneath his skin. His communicator buzzed. It was Ambassador Kellen, the human representative on Varela Ward. "What in the name of Earth were you thinking?" The ambassador shouted. Ethan frowned. "What do you mean? The ritual, Ethan? The one you just did with the alien representative. Do you realize what that was?" Ethan blinked, completely lost. "She said it was a friendship ceremony." Kellen groaned. "Friendship. Ethan, that wasn't friendship. That was the Varelian marriage bond." Ethan froze. "What? No, that can't be right. It was just light and hand-touching." According to their law, when two beings of compatible energy frequencies perform that ritual under the twin suns, it's considered a sacred union. You are now, officially and legally, the consort of Lyra of the 8th house, which means you're married to her. Ethan sat down slowly, staring at the communicator. His heart raced. "You're saying I just accidentally married an alien?" "Yes. And the Varelians are already broadcasting it across their networks as a symbol of interspecies harmony. This is a diplomatic storm waiting to happen, the aftermath, the next morning." Ethan woke to find Varelian attendants waiting outside his door. They bowed deeply when they saw him. "Consort Ward 1 said respectfully, 'Lady Lyra requests your presence.'" Ethan rubbed his forehead. "Consort. Right. Of course she does." He followed them to a grand hall filled with glowing fountains and music. Lyra stood at the center, her markings brighter than ever. She looked happy, but also shy, as if sensing his confusion. When he approached, she bowed deeply. "Husband of Harmony," she said softly, "it is my honor to share life with you." Ethan nearly stumbled. "Lyra, wait, this is all a misunderstanding. I didn't know what that ceremony meant." Her expression turned uncertain. "You did not. Choose the bond." "I thought it was friendship," he said quickly. "On Earth, we don't have energy link rituals." Lyra looked down, her light dimming. "I see. Then perhaps the stars have played a trick on us. But the bond is made." "The crystals do not lie," Ethan sighed, feeling torn. He didn't want to hurt her feelings or insult her culture. "Lyra, I didn't mean to disrespect you. I just didn't understand." She looked up slowly, her amber eyes glowing faintly. "The bond's energy has already linked us, Ethan. It will fade only if both hearts reject it. If even one heart accepts, it remains." He didn't know what to say. How could he reject her when she looked so sincere, so peaceful? A night of reflection that night, Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the shining city. He thought about Earth, about how humans often rushed into things without understanding, how curiosity sometimes led to chaos. And now, here he was, a man who had come to study alien biology and somehow ended up married to one. He felt the strange warmth inside him again, the same hum from the crystal. It pulsed gently, almost like a heartbeat. When he focused, he could sense something faint like emotion that wasn't his own. "Lyra?" he said quietly, though she wasn't there. For a brief moment, he felt calm energy reply in his mind. Soft, wordless comfort. Maybe she could sense his thoughts through the bond. He sighed and looked up at the twin suns. What have I gotten myself into? He muttered, but deep down beneath the confusion and panic, a part of him felt something else, something he couldn't explain. Maybe, just maybe, this strange mistake was not an accident after all. The silent connection the next few days passed in uncertainty. Lyra kept her distance, respecting his space, though the bond between them remained active. Ethan spent hours studying it, trying to understand the glowing patterns that now appeared faintly on his wrist, the mark of a Varelian union. He discovered that when he was near Lyra, the markings glowed slightly brighter. When he thought about her, he sometimes felt gentle waves of emotion, calmness, sadness, or warmth. One evening, while studying the crystal samples in his lab, he heard a soft voice behind him. The twin suns rose slowly over the crystal towers of Varela, painting the sky in gold and violet. The entire city shimmered with light, but inside Ethan Ward's quarters, the air was thick with confusion and quiet tension. He sat at his desk, surrounded by holographic notes and translation files. On the screen floated the glowing Varelian symbols for bond, union, and eternal link. Every translation confirmed the same impossible truth. The ritual he had joined with Lyra was indeed a marriage ceremony. Ethan sighed deeply. He had come to Varela as a scientist, not as someone's husband. Yet now, the Galactic Council, Earth's diplomats, and even the Varelian people were treating him like a symbol of peace. His communicator blinked again. Ambassador Kellen's voice filled the room. Ward, the Council wants to speak with you immediately. They're calling this a historical alliance between our species. You need to be careful with every word you say. Ethan rubbed his forehead. I didn't even say anything. I just touched a crystal. Kellen's image frowned. And now half the galaxy thinks Earth is married into the Varelian royal bloodline. Lyra's family is one of their great houses. This could be good or very bad, depending on what happens next. Ethan looked away to the window, where he could see the faint glow of Lyra's residence across the gardens. I didn't plan this, sir, but I can't undo it without offending their culture. Kellen nodded grimly. Then play along. Keep peace. Observe, learn, and don't get us all into an interstellar scandal. The communicator blinked off, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. A visit from Lyra. Moments later, the door chimed softly. Ethan opened it to find Lyra standing there, her golden markings glowing gently. She held a small crystal bowl filled with bright blue fruits that shimmered like glass. I brought breakfast, she said softly. Varelian nectar fruits. They help the energy balance. Ethan smiled politely and stepped aside. Thank you, Lyra. That's kind of you. She entered gracefully, setting the bowl on the table. For a moment, they stood in silence, unsure what to say. Finally, she spoke. I sense your worry, she said, her tone calm, but full of empathy. You feel trapped. But please believe me, Ethan and I never meant for this to happen without your understanding. I know, he said quickly. You didn't trick me. I was the one who didn't ask enough questions. On Earth, a ritual like that would just mean friendship. Lyra nodded slowly. On Varela, the bond means more. It joins energy, thought, and sometimes even destiny. It cannot be broken easily, but it doesn't have to be a burden. Ethan sighed, leaning against the table. The council thinks this could be a political problem. They're calling it an alliance marriage. Her golden eyes widened slightly. Alliance? We did not do this for politics. I know, Ethan said, but humans see everything through diplomacy. They'll try to use this bond to strengthen relations between our worlds. Lyra looked thoughtful. Then perhaps that is not so terrible. If our union brings peace, maybe the stars meant for it to happen. He looked at her, uncertain how to respond. Her calmness was strange but comforting. Even when the world seemed to spin around him, she remained steady like light in the dark, learning the bond over the following days. Ethan spent more time with Lyra, trying to understand how the Varelian bond worked. She explained that every bonded pair shared a link frequency, an invisible energy that allowed them to feel each other's emotions faintly. To test it, she asked him to close his eyes. "Now," she said gently, "think of something that gives you peace." Ethan thought of home green fields on Earth, a sky full of clouds. "Good," Lyra whispered. "Now feel this." A wave of warmth flowed through him. It wasn't physical touch, but an energy that felt like sunlight spreading through his chest. It carried feelings of calmness, curiosity, and quiet affection. Ethan opened his eyes in surprise. "That's you, isn't it?" She smiled softly. "Yes, that is the bond. Our energies speak even without words." He exhaled slowly. "That's incredible. Humans don't have anything like this." Lyra tilted her head. "Humans use eyes, voice, and touch. We use light and thought. But perhaps they are not so different." Their lessons continued daily. Ethan learned how to quiet his mind, how to sense her emotions, and how to control the faint glow that now appeared along his wrist, the mark of their bond. At first he resisted the idea, but as time passed, he found the connection strangely comforting. It didn't feel like control or possession. It felt like understanding, like two souls quietly listening to each other. A world divided, however. Peace rarely lasted long. News of the human-Varelian bond spread quickly across the galaxy. Some species celebrated it as a sign of progress. Others whispered that it was unnatural. Fusion of incompatible species that could threaten balance. Reports reached Varela that the Ravon Syndicate, a hostile faction that had always distrusted both humans and Varelians, was calling the bond a dangerous experiment. Their leaders claimed the connection could be used as a weapon, and they demanded it be undone. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting. Ethan was called to appear alongside Lyra. Inside the council hall, hundreds of alien representatives watched as the pair entered. The room glowed with countless colors, each species radiating its unique light. Counselor Tarek, of the Corn species, a tall, scaled being with 4 eyes, spoke first. "Human Ethan Ward, Varelian Lyra, you have joined in a union neither of your governments sanctioned. Do you understand the implications of this act?" Ethan cleared his throat. "It wasn't planned. I participated in what I thought was a cultural exchange ceremony, but I've learned that the bond we created is real and meaningful." A ripple of murmurs moved through the crowd. Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "The bond is sacred. It brings peace, not war. It connects to souls in harmony. You fear it because you do not understand it." Counselor Tarek hissed softly. "The Ravon Syndicate believes this bond could give you power over energy fields. They claim it's a threat." Ethan frowned. "We're not a threat. We just want to learn. If anything, this bond is proof that our species can coexist." The council remained silent for a long moment. Finally, the human ambassador spoke. "Until further study, both parties will remain on Varela under observation. The bond must not be used for political or military purposes." Ethan agreed, but deep inside, he felt uneasy. Something told him the Ravon Syndicate would not stop with words. The growing connection as days passed. The tension between species grew, but so did the quiet connection between Ethan and Lyra. One evening, stood together on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. The wind carried soft music from the streets below. "Do you regret it?" Lyra asked suddenly. Ethan turned to her. "Regret what?" "The bond. Being tied to me? Losing your freedom?" He thought for a moment. "At first I did. I felt trapped by something I didn't choose. But now, I'm not so sure. This bond, it's strange, but it feels right somehow. Like it's teaching me something important." She smiled faintly. "It teaches trust. It teaches that two hearts can beat together even from different worlds." Ethan nodded slowly. "I think I'm starting to understand that." For a long moment, they stood in silence. The twin suns dipped below the horizon, leaving trails of pink light. The glow on their wrists pulsed gently, 2 colors blending as one. The attack the next day began peacefully. Ethan was scheduled to present his findings about Varelian resonance fields to a group of scientists. Lyra accompanied him, proud and curious. But as they entered the Grand Science Hall, a sudden alarm echoed through the building. The air shimmered violently, and a flash of red light burst from the far wall. Down. Ethan shouted, pulling Lyra to the floor as an explosion tore through the hall. Shards of crystal flew in every direction. Security sirens wailed. Varelian guards rushed in, weapons drawn. Through the smoke, Ethan could see shadowy figures, Ravon agents in dark armor storming the hall. "They're here for us," Lyra whispered. Ethan's instincts took over. "We need to move." They crawled through the debris and ducked behind a fallen pillar. Energy blasts struck the walls, sending sparks everywhere. Lyra raised her hand. The mark on her wrist began to glow brighter. "Ethan, focus on me. Use the bond." He hesitated. "Use it how?" "Trust me, just feel." He closed his eyes, reaching out through the link. He felt her fear, her determination, and her energy surging like fire. Suddenly, the mark on his wrist burned with light. A wave of force erupted around them, forming a glowing shield. Energy blasts struck it and dissolved harmlessly. The Ravon agents froze in shock. Ethan opened his eyes, amazed. "We did that?" Lyra nodded, breathing hard. "The bond amplifies our strength. Together, we are more." They held the shield long enough for Varelian guards to push back the attackers. When the fight was over, the hall lay in ruins. But the two of them stood unharmed in the center, surrounded by faint golden light. Aftermath hours later, they sat in a medical chamber as healers tended to the wounded. The council had sent urgent messages demanding an explanation. Ethan's hands still trembled from the power he had felt. "That shield came from both of us. It wasn't just energy. It felt alive." Lyra nodded softly. "It was the bond responding to danger. It protects what it connects. But how?" "It defied physics." She smiled faintly. "Perhaps the universe bends its rules for those who share true harmony." The dawn on Varela was quiet, almost fragile. After the attack on the Grand Science Hall, the city had begun to recover. Crystals repaired themselves slowly, shimmering faintly as they restored structure. The people moved cautiously, their soft, glowing markings muted. As though the energy of the previous day still lingered in the air, Ethan Ward stood on a balcony overlooking the city, his gaze tracing the crystal towers that seemed to hum with quiet life. He flexed his fingers and noticed the faint pulse along his wrist. The mark of the bond he shared with Lyra. Its rhythm matched hers perfectly. Steady, reminder that they were linked in ways deeper than he had imagined. The attack had shaken him. Yes, but it had also taught him something profound. The bond wasn't just a symbol. It was power. Not destructive power, but protective, resilient, and alive. Lyra appeared beside him silently, her golden markings glowing softly, reflecting the first sunlight. She didn't need to speak. He felt her presence through the bond. It carried calm and trust. And for the first time, Ethan smiled without hesitation. "Good morning," he said quietly. "Good morning, husband of harmony," she replied with a gentle laugh. Even her voice, he realized, had begun to resonate within his mind through the link. He chuckled. "Still getting used to that title?" "You will," she said softly. "It suits you." Ethan shook his head with a faint smile. "I hope it doesn't scare anyone off in the Galactic Council meetings." She tilted her head, amused. "Humans and Varelians have much to teach each other. Perhaps it is time to show them that the bond is not a weakness, but a strength." Preparing for the Syndicate, the Ravon Syndicate had not disappeared after the last attack. Intelligence reports indicated they were regrouping, plotting something larger and more dangerous. Varela's leadership now relied on Ethan's knowledge of human tactics, combined with Lyra's understanding of Varelian energy fields. To plan defenses, Ethan felt a strange mix of excitement and tension. He had never commanded a defense force before, and yet here he was, guiding two species in preparation for a possible war. He studied maps, energy grids, and field patterns, learning quickly how Varelian technology could complement human strategy. Lyra stayed by his side constantly, teaching him subtle energy techniques that humans could not naturally sense. She guided him in syncing his thoughts with hers, creating a coordination system no enemy could predict. "It's like thinking together," Ethan said one evening, as they hovered over a holographic map. "You feel what I feel, and I can anticipate your actions," Lyra replied. "That is the bond, and it is stronger than any weapon. Together, we become more than ourselves." Ethan looked at her, his mind racing. For the first time, he realized the full potential of what they shared. It wasn't just protection, it was unity. It was human ingenuity and Varelian energy working as one. The attack begins a week later. The alarms rang out across Varela. The Ravon Syndicate had launched a full-scale assault, striking from multiple vectors at once. Ships emerged from the clouds, firing energy bolts that lit the skies. Ethan and Lyra rushed to the command center. Around them, Varelian scientists and human advisors moved in precise, calm chaos, coordinating shields and defenses. "Ethan," Lyra said, her voice steady but urgent, "we must synchronize fully. Trust the bond." "Trust me." Ethan nodded. "I do. Let's show them what humans and Varelians can do together." The moment they joined hands, their marks glowed bright, resonating in harmony. He felt her thoughts, her courage, her determination. The energy pulsed through him, surging like a river of fire and light. He raised his hand, and a shield of shimmering energy formed around the city's central crystal towers. Energy blasts from the attacking ships collided with it, dissipating harmlessly. Citizens below cheered as the attacker's strikes failed again and again. Lyra guided him, her voice soft but firm in his mind. "Push forward. Protect the people. Do not falter." Ethan responded instinctively. He directed the shield to extend to the streets, protecting fleeing civilians. He felt the power of human quick thinking and Varelian energy, combined into something neither species could wield alone: the heart of the battle. The Ravon Syndicate's flagship descended, a massive ship bristling with weapons designed to pierce Varelian shields. The human and Varelian counselors panicked, fearing the city's destruction. Ethan glanced at Lyra. "We can't let it reach the central plaza. We have to stop it." She nodded. "Then we will. Together." Through the bond, he felt her energy merge with his. He could anticipate her movements, and she could anticipate his. They moved as one, stepping out onto the balcony overlooking the city. Their joined hands created a wave of light that rippled outward, striking the enemy fleet like a tidal force. The flagship shuddered and fired, but every blast was absorbed by the radiant energy of their union. Energy arcs reflected off the surface of the shield, creating dazzling patterns across the sky. Ethan felt a thrill of exhilaration. This was more than defense, it was human ingenuity amplified by Varelian harmony. Their combined effort became a force no enemy could predict or resist. One by one, the enemy ships began to falter. Their energy systems overloaded as they tried to match the unpredictable pulses of the bond. Within minutes, the Ravon fleet retreated, defeated but alive, a warning rather than total destruction. Victory and reflection. After the battle, the city buzzed with celebration. Varelians cheered for their heroes, and humans standing alongside them were treated with respect and awe. Ethan and Lyra returned to their quarters, exhausted but exhilarated. Lyra let out a soft laugh. "I did not know the bond could amplify so much power. You humans, your courage is unmatched." Ethan shook his head with a tired smile. "It's not just me. Together, we did something neither of our species could have done alone." She reached out, touching his wrist, where the bond mark glowed. "Yes, together. That is the true strength of the bond. Not just protection, but unity." For a long moment they stood quietly, watching the twin suns set over the city. The glow of their marks reflected off each other. Pulsing like a heartbeat that belonged to both, Ethan felt something deep inside him. Something he had never felt before. A connection that was beyond fear, beyond politics, beyond species. It was trust, respect, and shared purpose. Strength beyond species, The following days brought new challenges. Messages arrived from other planets, some congratulating them, others wary or suspicious. Ethan and Lyra became symbols living proof that humans and Varelians could form bonds stronger than fear or misunderstanding. Counselors from other species requested meetings to learn from them. Humans and Varelians began joint training exercises, exploring how their combined talents could be used to protect peace rather than wage war. Ethan found himself teaching human strategies while Lyra shared Varelian energy techniques. Slowly, a new understanding began to form across the galaxy, a network of trust. Born from an accident that had turned into something extraordinary, he realized that the bond was not just about Lyra and him. It was about bridging worlds, about showing that two very different species could work together, share knowledge, and protect life. The personal bond, despite all the politics and strategy, Ethan never forgot that the bond was also personal. He and Lyra spent quiet moments walking through the crystal gardens, sharing thoughts without words, learning to read each other's emotions through the pulse of energy between them. Sometimes they laughed at human jokes that Lyra didn't fully understand. Sometimes they marveled at Varelian traditions that seemed impossible to mimic. And always, the bond pulsed softly, constant reminder that they were connected. One night, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Ethan turned to Lyra. "I never thought I would be married to an alien," he said softly, "let alone one who could light up my wrist with energy." Lyra laughed quietly. "And I never thought a human could make my bond glow brighter with courage and kindness. Yet here we are," Ethan smiled. "I think I'm starting to understand what the bond truly means. It isn't just energy. It's trust. It's respect. It's hope." She placed her hand over his. The bond flared gently, warm and steady. "Yes, Ethan, and together we can bring hope to more than just ourselves." The future of Unity, the Ravan Syndicate, remained a threat, but the city of Varela was stronger than ever. Humans and Varelians worked side by side, learning from each other. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary, a human and a Varelian whose bond could not be broken, whose cooperation could protect entire worlds. Ethan realized that the simple ritual had been anything but simple. It had changed him, Lyra, and perhaps the entire galaxy. What began as misunderstanding had grown into unity, power, and inspiration. He looked at Lyra, her markings glowing softly in the twilight. He reached for her hand, feeling the familiar hum of the bond. "Whatever comes next," he said, "we face it together." "Together," she echoed, her voice soft but certain. And as the twin suns disappeared behind the horizon, the bond between them pulsed brightly, a living symbol of trust, courage, and the limitless power of two worlds joined as one.